Have you ever wandered through a city and felt it wasn't just a collection of buildings and streets, but a living entity whispering your own story back to you? For me, that city was Prague. Its winding, rain-slick cobblestone lanes didn't just guide me through centuries of history, they reflected my struggles, my hopes, and everything I thought I understood about myself. But what about you? Has a place ever held up a mirror to your soul, striking you with recognition or challenging your sense of who you are? That is the magic of merging memoir with travel writing. The journey outward transforms into one within, mingling your footprints with memory's map. Travel writing charts the world, mapping coastlines and cultures, while memoir navigates the interior landscape of the self. But what happens when these two genres converge? A powerful alchemy occurs. The boundaries between inner and outer blur. Streets lined with lanterns or battered with rain become metaphors. Mountain ridges mirror emotional highs and lows. The world speaks, and if we listen closely, we can hear the echoes of our own stories reverberating through every ancient alley and open road. The external journey becomes a mirror for the internal one, creating a narrative that is as much about discovering the world as it is about discovering oneself. This hybrid form of memoir and travel writing invites you into a deeply personal exploration, where the contours of a foreign land reflect the geography of the soul. The city as a character, Prague. Let me take you deeper into this idea. Imagine a gray evening in Prague. There's a heaviness in the air, thick with the scent of memory rising from ancient stone. The city seems to breathe. A gentle gust stirs damp leaves. The low hum of distant trams rattles through the twilight. There are memories I carry from those winding, rain-slick streets, moments when Prague felt less like a city and more like a silent companion, reflecting my own contradictions and unrest. I think of the bridge at dusk, the stone under my feet echoing countless histories, and the brisk air tinged with the distant notes of a lone street violinist. Earlier that day, I had a heated argument with an American classmate. The words echoed unresolved pain. His, mine, are shared attempts at belonging to a foreign city. Seeking to escape that collision of tempers, I stepped out into the city's veins, feeling both exposed and invisible. The Charles Bridge called to me, arching over the Vltava like an old story retold each evening. As my footsteps pressed into slippery stone, I passed hushed travelers and boisterous laughter, but the city swallowed their presence, turning the world inward. A street violinist hidden in the shadows near the bridge's center played a melody so mournful it threaded its way right through the armor I wore as a combat veteran. The raucous energy of tourists and vendors faded, and in that twilight hush, with the city's Gothic spires etched against a bruised sky, I found clarity amidst confusion, strength veiled as vulnerability. Prague's ancient walls seemed to whisper that survival is not mere endurance, but the courage to see oneself, shadow and light, amid a foreign landscape. I paused, mid-bridge, feeling the cool stone beneath my palm, the weight of it all, pockmarked by centuries. In the gathering dusk, Prague's Gothic spires rose in a silhouette, brooding but beautiful. It struck me, at that moment, I wasn't simply passing through. I was surrendering to the city's silent interrogation. What old battles was I fighting? What was I trying to leave behind? That evening, the city held up a mirror. Clarity bloomed in the hush, as Prague's timelessness invited me to let go, not of memories, but of the need to outrun them. I wasn't just observing Prague, I was in dialogue with it, and in that exchange, pieces of my own past and present began to arrange themselves in a new, clearer pattern. Travel then became less about escape and more about encounter, a deliberate, sometimes uncomfortable meeting with one's own history. Moments like these remind us that travel isn't merely about collecting passport stamps or scenic photos. Sometimes the greatest journey is letting a place move through us, shaping the mosaic of our identity. I wasn't just walking through Prague, I was listening to it, The city's silence gave space for my own voice to emerge, weaving the scattered pieces of my past and present into something whole. The journey outward had become the journey inward. Have you ever visited a place that suddenly and unexpectedly moved something inside of you? Pause for a moment. Close your eyes and think back to a time when you can recall the scent in the air, the chill on your skin, or the hush of a city at dusk. And it forced you to see yourself anew. Now, as evidenced by the rest of this video, that place for me was undoubtedly Prague, among many other places too that ended up going into my memoir, The Desert Warrior. But Prague is continuing to influence me, and my latest novel is actually set against the backdrop. Set against the backdrop of Prague. I'm so excited about it, obviously. But when it comes to the art of travel writing and incorporating that into memoir, I think Prague was definitely the city that really brought that out of me and really made me rethink about the span of my life, which has been basically a lot of travel. From the time I was born in New York, I've moved every 2 to 3 years of my life because my father was in the military, and then I joined the Army at age 17. So a lot of my life was just perpetually in flux. And I think it made a lot of sense to incorporate that into this style of writing. So I really hope that you get something out of this in terms of maybe a new way of thinking about writing memoir or travel writing itself. But share your story in the comments, and maybe your story will inspire somebody else to kickstart their journey. In the quiet aftermath of that encounter, I began to reflect on the act of writing itself. Composing The Desert Warrior forced me to peel back layers of my old armor, to question not only how I remembered things, but why I chose to tell them in a certain way. Years of drifting from city to city, Prague's labyrinthine alleys, Baghdad's burning horizon, Saipan's windswept beaches, had shaped me into both observer and participant, forever changed by the liminality of return. As a salty, traumatized veteran, I had grown accustomed to moving, never quite letting my roots burrow into the soil of any new place. Each passport stamp carried the weight of what I had left behind, a past haunted by war, and a relentless search for solace in faraway streets. Memoir, I discovered, was not merely a vessel for recounting places or trauma, but a living, evolving mirror, one that demanded I confront not just the world's turbulence, but the fault lines within myself. Travel and memory became inextricably bound, what I wrote and what I lived, two rivers converging, muddy and magnificent, reshaping the very notion of what it means to chart a life. This fusion of genres is more than just a travel diary. It's a deliberate craft, balancing the external with the internal, the seen with the felt. It is in this delicate balance that the story finds its heart. The essential elements of travel memoir. To craft a compelling travel memoir, writers must weave together distinct threads of personal reflection and worldly observation. The most resonant works in this genre share a common set of elements that elevate a simple travelogue into a profound narrative of self-discovery. So let's take a look at what these essential elements are. First, we'll start with emotional honesty, charting the inner world. At its core, a travel memoir is a story of personal transformation. This requires a level of emotional honesty that can be both challenging and liberating for the writer. It's not enough to describe the sunset over the Sahara. The writer must also explore the feelings that the sunset evokes, the sense of insignificance, the surge of awe, the echo of a past memory. The internal landscape is just as crucial as the physical one. This vulnerability forges a deep connection with the reader, who is invited not just to see the world through the writer's eyes, but to feel it through their heart. Through this interplay of the external and the internal, the world transforms into a mirror, reflecting back pieces of the soul. A secluded forest trail does not merely whisper the rustle of leaves, it carries the weight of solitude, a bittersweet kind of peace tinged with the ache of distance. The waves crashing against a rocky shore are not simply nature's rhythm. They become the crest and fall of emotions left unspoken, rising and retreating endlessly. It is within these layers of experience that the writer discovers meaning, weaving the tangible and intangible into threads of shared humanity. To write in this way is to bear both the light and shadow of existence. The joy of a blossom unfolding in spring must sit beside the sorrow of its inevitable fading, and in doing so, the writer touches the truth. It is this balance, the fragile equilibrium between what is seen and what is felt, that breathes life into the words, making them pulse and surge like the tide with their own quiet energy. Only then does the reader truly inhabit the story, finding fragments of their own essence illuminated within the writer's world. That night in Prague for me nearly 20 years ago, the sound of the violin was more than background. It was a requiem for regrets and an invitation to possibility. When you write, dare to delve into those internal shifts. Name your fears, your awe, your confusion. The world's landscapes are vast, but the internal distances we travel are often more daunting. Yet by mapping these, we allow the reader to travel alongside us, not just as observers, but as fellow seekers. Next, we move on to sense of place, painting with words. While the emotional journey is central, the setting must be more than a mere backdrop. A strong sense of place is vital. The writer must act as a sensory guide, immersing the reader in the sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and textures of a location. This is achieved through vivid, descriptive language that paints a mental picture. The clatter of a Parisian cafe, the salty spray of the Pacific, the multi-layered spicy aroma of a Marrakesh souk. These details bring the world to life on the page, making the setting an active character in the narrative. The setting should pulse with life, tethered with the emotional undertones of the story. It is not static, it breathes, shifts, and reacts. The gentle rustling of autumn leaves may whisper of nostalgia, while a dense, foggy forest can obscure not just the path ahead, but the clarity of a character's thoughts. A torrential thunderstorm with its pounding rain and cacophonous thunder could mirror inner turmoil, lending the narrative an atmospheric resonance that words alone may fail to capture. Equally crucial is the interplay between character and environment. A bustling, neon-lit city can amplify the loneliness of a wayward soul, while an expansive open plain may evoke a sense of freedom or insignificance. The setting shapes experience, bending the contours of perception and mood. Every shadow, every glimmer of light carries meaning, waiting to be unveiled by a writer who dares to see the profound within the ordinary. It is in these details, gritty, delicate, or dazzling, that the world is rendered real. In short, a strong sense of place is vital. During my time in Prague, colors changed with mood. Sunlight on castle walls burned with hope, while the fog that rolled down from Petrin Hill whispered loneliness. The aroma of fresh pastries from a street vendor mingled with exhaust and wood smoke, embedding each block with its own story. When writing, let your setting breathe. Show your readers the bright neon chaos of Tokyo's Shibuya crossing, the numbing silence of a desert at dawn, or the slippery chill of cobblestones under a light rain. These small sensory details, crunch of snow, warmth of a borrowed scarf, taste of spiced coffee, can draw your reader immediately into the world you inhabit. And now onto the last and third part of this section, which is cultural immersion, a dialogue with the world. Travel memoir is also a chronicle of encounters. It's about the interactions with people and cultures that shape the writer's experience. This involves moving beyond the perspective of a tourist and engaging with the local way of life. True cultural immersion means listening, observing, and participating with an open mind. These interactions often serve as catalysts for personal growth, challenging preconceived notions and offering new ways of seeing the world. The writer's ability to capture the nuances of these cultural exchanges adds depth and authenticity to the story. Real transformation often happens when you move beyond your own comfort zone. In Prague, cultural immersion meant more than just architectural tours or cafe conversations. It was wrestling with the language, witnessing quiet resistance woven into art and music, and absorbing history you never learned in school. Cultural immersion is listening to the cadence of another country's daily routine, sharing space and stories, asking questions from a place of humility. These moments can add rich, unexpected texture to your narrative. So be open to discomfort. It's often a sign that you're on the edge of learning something essential. Memoir and travel writing, woven together, are like footsteps on a path that doesn't merely lead outward but dives inward with every turn. For the reader, it offers the allure of escape, of tasting unfamiliar spices on the breeze, the colors, textures not yet woven into their life's tapestry. But for the writer, it becomes a metamorphosis, a shedding of skins. To chart the shards of foreign streets or the quiet swell of an overlooked village is to unpack the layers of self that often remain hidden in the humdrum of daily life. Each kilometer or mile, each encounter, each misstep presses closer to something raw and untranslatable, a truth about one's place in the world. Writing becomes the alchemy where solitude is refined into connection, where what is unfamiliar transforms the writer into something equally unknown. And while readers may anchor themselves to the comfort of armchair adventure, the writer is constantly reshaped by the spaces between the words, the silences, the unrecorded glances, and the lessons that stir the soul more than they can adorn the page. It's not simply travel, it's a pilgrimage, where the destination is always the self reimagined. A quick aside on how Arrivals and Departures was born. The genesis of Arrivals and Departures, my other blog and YouTube channel, began in March 2020, a time when the world itself seemed to pause. I had just moved to London, carrying with me a suitcase of dreams and an ache for longing. But as doors closed and streets emptied, the bustling city I had imagined became an echo of itself. The COVID-19 lockdown confined us all, turning daily life into a strange, reflective solitude. While the world felt smaller, my mind began to stretch toward an expanse of places I had been and those I had yet to go. Writing became my solace, a way to channel the yearning for adventure that the times had stolen. I started revisiting old photos, notes scribbled down on worn-out maps, and memories of moments that shaped my understanding of travel. Slowly, the idea for Arrivals and Departures took root. This blog became a space to weave together the threads of past journeys and the longing for future exploration, and it became a portal of not just recounting travel experiences, but also reflecting on what movement, both outward and inward, truly means. Through Arrivals and Departures, I sought to create something more than just a collection of travel stories. It became an homage to the human spirit's relentless curiosity, even in the most challenging times. Each post I wrote was like a letter to places I loved, to people I met, and to the person I became through these encounters. London, with its stillness and its clouds, witnessed the birth of this endeavor as I dreamed of far-off places from the quiet of my room. Travel, at its essence, is not merely about moving from one place to another, it's about connection. Connection to landscapes, to people, and to stories that echo from the world's farthest corners. Stories, however, are the threads that weave these experiences into something greater, something enduring. Through storytelling, the fleeting becomes eternal. It is an act of sharing, of linking our individual reflections to the greater tapestry of the collective, that we find meaning even in the smallest moments. A quiet sunrise over an unfamiliar horizon becomes a symbol of hope. The laughter shared with a stranger becomes an anchor in chaotic times. When we write, when we allow our experiences to breathe on the page, we are giving them to others in the most intimate of ways. We're saying, "This mattered to me. Perhaps it will matter to you as well." And in doing so, we create more than a simple narrative. We create empathy, inspiration, and courage. Especially in times of uncertainty, these stories carry the weight of possibility. They remind us not only of what is, but of what could be. Every individual has a story worthy of being heard. Whether it arrives as a whisper or a roar, it has the power to uplift, to connect, and to heal. The world is vast, yet our stories bridge its distances, binding us in threads of shared wonder and resilience. To those hesitating to begin, I urge you, write, share, and give your voice to the world. Somewhere out there, someone is waiting, perhaps unknowingly, for the story only you can tell. A Writer's Compass. Tips for the journey. Writing is both a discipline and a dance, a delicate weaving of thought and emotion, truth and imagination. It is not a straight road, but a winding path carved by the unique rhythm of your voice, each step forward guided by instinct, inspiration, and the lessons you gather along the way. The blank page is not your enemy, but an open field, waiting to receive the seeds of your creativity. To write is to nurture these seeds with care, trusting that they will grow, even if their beauty is not immediate or obvious. Patience, curiosity, and courage serve as your compass on this voyage, pointing you toward unexplored horizons and illuminating hidden depths within yourself. And though you may falter or lose your way, know that each stumble teaches you something essential. Remember, it is the imperfections and detours that often lead us to the most surprising and rewarding discoveries. For those inspired to write their own travel memoir, here are a few guiding principles to keep in mind. Find the balance. The key to a successful memoir is the equilibrium between internal reflection and external description. Too much introspection can feel self-indulgent, while too much description can read like a generic travel guide. Weave the two together seamlessly. Let a description of a landscape trigger a memory, or let an interaction with a local spark a personal insight. The balance is found in the interplay between the outer world explored and the inner world revealed. Imagine a bustling marketplace, vivid colors of spices heaped in pyramids, the tangled murmur of negotiation, the sharp scent of citrus, and earth lingering in the air. Don't simply describe the scene, but reflect on what it stirs within you. Does it remind you of childhood trips to the farmer's market? Does the interaction with a vendor spark a reflection on gratitude or cultural exchange? This is where your story thrives, in the delicate stitching together of observation and emotion. Think of your writing as a lens, one that both captures the external beauty of your surroundings and filters it through your personal experience. Sometimes the most ordinary details, like the pattern of footprints in the sand or the rhythm of a train's click-clack, can unfold into profound revelations if given the space to breathe in your narrative. Seek the moments where the outside world and your inner self, run parallel, and your memoir will transform into something as poetic as a shared piece of the heart. Next, engage all the senses. Don't just tell the reader what you saw, show them what you heard, smelled, tasted, and touched. Sensory details are the building blocks of immersion. They transport the reader to the location and make the experience feel immediate and real. Close your eyes and recall the specifics. The texture of a handmade textile, the taste of a street food delicacy, the sound of a distant prayer call. Imagine the way sunlight filters through the canopy of trees, casting dapple patches of light on the ground, a golden rain that shifts with the breeze. Feel the coolness of the earth beneath your feet, damp and grounding, as if the soil is whispering its history to you. Listen closely to the symphony of the world, from the rustling of leaves to the rhythmic hum of insects, a melody that ebbs and flows with nature's pulse. Taste the salt in the air by the shore, mingled with the tang of freshly caught fish sizzling on an open flame, flavors that linger and tell the story of their origins. Smell the sweetness of wildflowers blooming with reckless abandon, their fragrance mingling with the faint smokiness of wood burning far away, hints of life in unseen places. Every detail, Every sensation weaves a tapestry of memory, one that grows richer and deeper as you invite your senses to engage fully. To immerse yourself in these moments is to gather threads of the extraordinary, binding them to the ordinary, painting the vibrant hues of experience vividly into the fabric of your story. Next, write with respect. When writing about other cultures, it's essential to approach the subject with humility and respect. Avoid stereotypes and generalizations. Strive to represent people and places with nuance and authenticity. Acknowledge your position as an outsider and be mindful of the lens through which you are viewing the world. The goal is to foster understanding, not to cheapen the experience through an exotic yet superficial lens or to exploit. Respect begins with listening to the voices of those who live the stories you wish to tell, absorbing their truths without altering them to fit your narrative. Seek out primary sources, personal testimonies, and vivid conversations that spark genuine dialogue. Approach research not as a collector with a checklist, but as a humble traveler learning the language of another's world. Write with curiosity, not assumption, and with the reverence for details only those with lived experience can provide. Understand that when you write of a culture that is not your own, you bear a responsibility to avoid harm. Your words can illuminate as much as they can obscure, so tread thoughtfully. Ask yourself, who stands to gain from your narrative? Does it uplift and empower? Does it preserve the depth and dignity of its subjects without reducing them to backdrops for your personal storytelling? Remember, representation holds power, and wielding it carelessly can perpetuate harm rather than bridge understanding. Above all, honor the spirit of collaboration. Where possible, invite voices from the culture you portray into your process. Treat their insights as precious gifts, not as footnotes. Through the shared lens, the stories we tell gain not only authenticity, but also a vibrant richness. A mosaic pieced together by hands other than our own, yet stitched with shared humanity. Writing while using the hero's journey. Every journey worth telling bears the shape of myth, departure, descent, transformation, and return. Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, as captured in my own reflections, offers not just a storytelling template or a scholar's tool. It's a map for forging meaning from chaos, especially when you've carried trauma through distant lands and back. Within Memoir, the hero's journey does not unfold on distant battlefields or at the edges of uncharted maps alone. Instead, it begins with the quiet yet disquieting ordinary world, that state of uneasy normal, often haunted by unspoken words. The call to adventure arrives, sometimes as thunder and sometimes as a whisper. A memory that refuses to fade, a restlessness under the skin, a moment that marks the before and after. For many veterans, myself included, it was the echo of war and the uneasy steps back into civilian life that summoned this call. As memoirists, we often encounter the refusal of the call, that bone-deep resistance to excavate old pain or name what feels unspeakable. But the writing process acts as our supernatural aid, and sometimes a mentor, a friend, or even distant voices of others who have walked these roads become a guide, gently urging us to cross the threshold into the unknown. Once we cross into the heart of memory, we find ourselves in the belly of the whale, the realm of shadow, sorrow, and secrets. Here, memoir becomes more than a story. It is survival. On the road of trials, every penned recollection, sharp words exchanged on a Prague bridge, or silent moments in a dormitory's sparse quiet, becomes both a test and a teacher. On my own path to discovering travel writing and memoir combined, I recognized that every encounter, from the overt aggressions to the subtle estrangements with fellow travelers and locals, formed a mosaic of trial and reflection. My own journey mirrored the cycles of temptation, atonement, and the longing for apotheosis, that rare peace granted after accepting one's flaws, fears, and fragments of past regret. Meeting with the goddess might appear as moments of rare connection, a Prague pub offering laughter amid strangers, or a friend's steady hand at the edge of self-doubt. The atonement is that fierce reckoning, a confrontation with trauma where vulnerability and strength coexist. Eventually, the memoirist approaches the ultimate boon, the realization that survival and transformation can coexist, that our pain carves out space for new meaning. Yet the journey is not simply about healing. It's about carrying that hard-won knowledge and carrying it home in a way that may comfort or inspire another. The return can be laced with hesitation, the refusal of the return, as we fear the world may not understand the new self-emerging from the ashes. But ultimately, we cross a threshold. The act of writing, of sharing, becomes the rescue from without, the bridge back to ourselves and to others. We become, as Campbell prescribes, the master of two worlds, able to exist in memory and in the present, remade by the ordeal, imbued with the freedom to live. In writing The Desert Warrior, my own memoir, I discovered an unexpected odyssey along this path. My call to adventure didn't sound heroic. It was a restlessness that set in after returning from Iraq, an ache for purpose and context after loss. The belly of the whale, the mythic threshold, became the act of sitting down to write while traveling between various cities and countries. That space was lonely, heavy with memory, filled with the smell of old paper and the hum of distant traffic outside my window. The road of trials was real, a series of flashbacks, hard questions, fearful chapters written and then torn apart. Tempers flared with classmates in Prague, but deeper battles raged inside, a reckoning with guilt, anger, and grief that I had kept boxed away. In Prague's alleys, I recalled the overwhelming vibrancy of Baghdad's markets and the hollow institutional quiet of a VA hospital back home. In time, I found atonement sitting by the Vltava as local musicians played and strangers drift past. I realized my story wasn't about a veteran's pain, but about courage, vulnerability, and the capacity to find wonder again. The ultimate boon wasn't a grand prize. It was a quieter acceptance that survival and transformation can coexist. Our pain carves space for new meaning. As Campbell describes, the final phase, the return, isn't always easy or welcome, but bringing your story home, sharing it, even if it's unfinished, imperfect in any way, is an act of generosity to yourself and to others. That is the true freedom to live. Writing through trauma in this way is an act of both remembrance and rebirth. Memoir, guided by the hero's journey, transforms fragmented pain into meaningful narrative. It's not merely the story of what happened, but the story of what it meant and what possibilities await on the horizon's other side. Some key takeaways to consider for getting started are: 1, find your entry point. The call to adventure could be something as small as curiosity about a new place, or it could be about a sense of restlessness in familiar surroundings or environment. 2, map your trials. Let your writing trace not just the literal journey itself, but the emotional trials along the way. 3, I would say embrace vulnerability. The act of remembering and recording is transformative, and it does help you process and release the most difficult stories. And 4 is honor the return. Don't shy away from sharing your growth and how you're feeling about that, or how you felt about that along the way. Your perspective, especially during and after hardship, may guide others on their own path. And sometimes sharing those really raw and, of course, vulnerable moments are, I think, the juiciest parts of the story, because it tells people not just an itemized list of what happened, but you were going through the process of sharing what was really going on inside of your mind, what was going on in your body, what were you really, really feeling? Were you scared? Were you angry? Were you sad? And describe how those things felt. Describe your surroundings and how those surroundings played with those emotions or impacted those emotions, or how maybe your emotions colored everything you saw before you. The journey home. The power of combining memoir and travel writing lies in its ability to illuminate a universal truth, that every journey we take in the world is also a journey into ourselves. These stories remind us that the maps we follow can lead us to unexpected destinations within our own hearts. They encourage us to travel not just as observers, but as participants, open to the ways in which the world can change us. The final destination then is not just a place on a map, but a deeper understanding of who we are and our place within the vast, intricate tapestry of the world. Every story, no matter how small or seemingly ordinary, carries the weight of an entire life, the rhythm of days, the ache of longings, the quiet triumphs that often go unnoticed. When we tell our stories, we take part in the long tradition of weaving threads into the endless tapestry of human existence. Writing is not merely an act of documentation, it is an act of discovery. With each sentence, we peel back the layers of time, memory, and experience, uncovering truths we didn't know were waiting for us. Your voice, trembling with imperfection or brimming with confidence, is a light unique to the constellation of the world. To write is to dare to be seen, to open a window into the universe that exists beyond your eyes. It is through these windows that others can glimpse parts of themselves they may not have yet recognized. Sharing your story is a gift, an offering to the collective humanity that reminds us that we are not alone, even in our most solitary moments. Words have a way of traveling, of finding their way to the hearts they are meant for. Your story has the power to inspire, to comfort, or to ignite change. It may stir someone to laughter or tears, or perhaps it will simply whisper to them, reminding them that the small moments of their life matter too. Even if your story reaches just one soul, that connection is enough to ripple out into the vast unseen web that binds us all together. There is a kind of courage in letting your memories take shape on the page, and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and honest. But from that courage comes something beautiful, a bridge between you and those who read your words. The act of storytelling is an invitation, asking others to walk alongside you for a moment, to see the world through your eyes, and perhaps to recognize something familiar in the unfamiliar terrain. Combining memoir and travel writing is more than a technique. It's an invitation to transmute experience into meaning. Every city, every road, every moment abroad can reflect something precious or painful within you. The maps we follow in the world are, in the end, blueprints for the inner cartography of the self. So whether you're setting out on a faraway adventure or simply reflecting on the journeys you've already made, remember, the map is already within you. Listen to the stories the streets are yearning to tell you, and the truths your own heart longs to hear. So with all that said, I invite you to step forward, pen in hand, and write the story of your life and all of its complexities. Write the story not because it's going to be perfect, but because it's going to be true. And share it, not just because you're expecting everybody in the world to read your story, but somebody in the world might need your story. And to me, that's enough, and that's been enough. And I think that it'll be worth your while to explore any one of these themes and just pretty much go with it. And if anything, you'll have another tool in your toolbox for your writing journey ahead. That is the magic and power of storytelling, and it is yours to wield. Thank you all for stopping by, and if you're a new viewer, please hit like and subscribe so you can stay tuned for the continued creative journey. And if you are a returning member, thanks so much for visiting with me again. In the meantime, take care, stay safe, and I will see all of you next time here in the studio.